noise throughout the entire roster. I mean, everything works out for a reason. And you know, this is just fun to talk about because, again, the possibilities are endless. Like 2001 Kurt Angle, oh God, versus 2001 Sting. Even though the two of them were each other's favorite opponents, I guess, over in TNA. But imagine them wrestling each other in 2001. Or could you imagine 2001 Ric Flair versus Kurt Angle of 2001? Flair would have obviously been, you know, a little bit younger and been able to go. Let's see. You could have had a lot. And yes, oh my god, then yeah, think of this. James brought up a good point. Jericho would not have been an undisputed champion, and I highly doubt he would have ever been world champion, ever, period. That Final Four from that pay-per-view, from Vengeance, that Vengeance pay-per-view would have been completely different. Who would have been the Final Four? Depends on who was in. I can tell you what the Final Four would have been if all the right players were in place. And they all agreed to everything. The two faces of the WWF at the time, Rock and Austin. The two faces of WCW, Sting and Hogan. I think that would have been your Vengeance Final Four if they were still doing that angle of one match for the WCW title, one match for the WWF title, and then the final match would be for both belts. Or they would have done two different brackets, a WWF bracket for the WWF Championship, or an Alliance bracket for the WCW World title. And they would have had the who's who of everybody in there. I mean, Rock, Austin, Undertaker, Kane, Booker T, crazy. All these stuff, and all this stuff, like, let me read this really quick. Triple H, Steiner, Sting, Taker, Hogan, Austin, Rock, Goldberg. Yeah, that WrestleMania 18 card would have been absolutely off the freaking charts. But, again, too late. But then with that stacked of a card, where would the undercard have fit in? You know what I mean? Like, kind of becoming the problem, or it would have been like making the problem come about sooner than kind of what it is right now with WrestleMania, where it's all these big part-timers and whatever, the big names, and there's no room for the undercard to kind of make their noise. Which, again, it's a completely different circumstance to a completely different time. But that would have been absolutely outrageous WrestleMania. Absolutely outrageous. But then again, a booking nightmare. That's why that's why Austin Hogan would never work. Their egos would not allow it to happen. Triple H, Steiner. Okay, I mean, that would have been fast forwarded or rewound to about a year or so, a couple of years. Sting, Taker would have been pretty good. Rock, Goldberg would have been pretty sweet at 18. And Outsiders versus Edge Christian, that would have been pretty good too. But again, even with that, okay, Scott Hall, what's his condition like? Is he maybe sober during a match? Or, now you're sticking these two old guys against these young bloods where they're going to be concerned about getting hurt. And I don't blame them either, but just a different time. And how much the internet would have fucking killed this thing. Like, I had mentioned it before. How much would the internet have killed this? Like, this isn't the same. Like, at the time, you had the internet, but you had enough where you could still enjoy it instead of being having 400 followers on your shitty Twitter account, and you're saying that this match sucks and why is this happening and blah 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 blah. Where's this guy? Where's that guy? Blah 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 blah. The complaining would have been off the charts. Not that it probably didn't exist, in living rooms or in .com forums when, like, am I, like, making any sense? Like, just, oh my god, like, just the possibilities. I think next time if we ever revisit this, I'll have to write down. I'll have to watch all the 2001 pay-per-views and kind of rebook it from that way, like from an on-paper standpoint. But it would have to be you add an X amount of guys, you get rid of an X amount of guys. Because, okay, you want Goldberg, Sting, and somebody else. Well, the casualties probably would have been Sean O'Hare, and a couple other people. I just can't remember. But it's amazing to think about. It's really, truly very amazing to think about. But that'll be it with me today here on Open Mic Wrestling Night. Thank you again for joining us. We really appreciate it. Remember, Blake and Sal's show, they go live. Not that they're going to be live like how I am right now, but their pre-recorded segments will go live 10 o'clock in the morning tomorrow, Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern. And then Nerd Herders will go live, as they normally do, Friday at 9. So, all that much more here on the Filling the Void Podcast Network. And again, Messy Magical Motherhood debuts on Saturday. So, and then Full Circle Podcast debuts on Monday the 12th. So we got a lot going on here on the network, a lot here on Open Mic Wrestling Night. If you want to listen to any of our archive shows, you can go to go to Spreaker.com/filling_the_void. You can listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, Player FM. The Spreaker app on your phone, you can also listen to it that way. You can follow me on Twitter at Calypso426, and you can also just follow the network's Twitter at Filling the Void P. So, thank you to Brandon for calling in. Thank you to James and Blake for contributing into the chat for tonight. That was very appreciated. Until next Thursday, guys, we'll have yourselves a good rest of your week. Go out and support your local independent wrestling. Very important to do. This Saturday, I will. Filling the Void Podcast Network is sponsoring a couple matches for Capital Wrestling out in Jersey City. Let me throw out their complete plugs so that this way I can say that I actually did something to help them out. Saturday, June 3rd, the bell time is at 7 p.m. Doors open at 6. This is at the Cathedral Hall, 380 Montgomery Street in Jersey City. I will be there, and I hope you guys are too. Definitely good to check out your local independent wrestling. So, until then, thank you all for for joining me, and have yourselves a good rest of your week, and have a good weekend, and I will see you next week.